Welcome back to the session 2.4. In this session, we'll be discussing the topic scattering of light of your chapter optics. But before that, we'll be recollecting what and all we learned in the before session. So, what did we learn in the before session? That's 2.3 refraction of a composite light or dispersion of light. So, what is a composite light? A composite light is approximately a white light. What is a white light? It's just a combination of the Vibgyor colors. That means monochromatic light sources or light combines to form composite light. Many monochromatic lights is a composite light, and that's it. Example of a monochromatic light source is a laser which you use to play with it. That's a monochromatic light source which emits red color. And then a composite light source is probably the sun, a CFL bulb, or a tube light, anything let it be. That's the source of composite light. And what is dispersion? Dispersion means separating of light. And here light means a white light. White light is composed of seven colors, and the band is called as spectrum. The band of seven colors is called as spectrum, and those seven colors are shortly denoted as Vibgyor. And that's all. And the last line, refractive index of a medium is dependent on the wavelength of the light. This is very important. And that's all, recalling the last session. Okay, coming back to this session, scattering of light. So what is scattering? Scattering means dispersing, dividing. Okay, dividing is a better word to suit scattering. Dividing what? Dividing light. That's what we are going to learn here. Getting into the paragraph, when sunlight enters the earth's atmosphere, actually we are surrounded by a volume of gases, and that volume of gases is called as atmosphere, comma, the atoms and molecules of different gases present in the atmosphere refract the light in all possible directions. Okay, this is called as scattering of light. What they are saying is very simple. See, take this as earth. Okay, this is earth. Okay, fine. And this is earth's atmosphere, which is filled by gases. Gases actually means there are molecules, right? There is some molecules. And what they took here is when sunlight enters the earth's atmosphere. So sunlight will be somewhere here, right? Sun, and these are its beams. So sunlight is going to travel this much distance, and this much distance is just an empty space. What does an empty space mean? Vacuum, right? Vacuum. And what actually is refraction? Refraction is the bending of light when light enters from one medium to another medium. Here the first medium is vacuum and the second medium is gas. So light is definitely going to refract. And that's what they are saying in this line. And due to this, the gases are going to refract the light. And this is called as scattering of light. Very simple. In this phenomenon, the beam of light is redirected in all directions when it interacts with the particle of a medium. The interacting particle of the medium is called as scatterer. Here, instead of refracting, they are using a word called as scattering. So, what does this literally mean? We need to understand it first now. For that, we are going to take this diagram, and this is the incident light. So, light is going to travel in the form of rays, right? Like this. Hence, the rays will hit in this part or this part or any other part. So, while hitting there, it is going to, and this particle will just scatter the light. If one beam of, not one beam. Okay, let it be one beam. One beam of light is going to hit the particle. Then this one beam is scattered into many beams, many shorter beams. We can say that shorter beams, and that is called as scattering of light. So this to happen, the particle must have very small size. Actually, it must be a size comparable to molecules. So what is a molecule? Molecules is very simple. Molecules combinations of one or two atoms is called as molecule. And this particle must have the size of some molecules, some number of molecules, either 2 3 molecules. That much size this particle must have to scatter this light, and this is called as scattering, and this particle is called as scatterer because it is going to scatter this incident light, and that's called as scatterer. Scatterer, scatterer. Correct, right? Yeah, correct. Then scattering of light is over. Then there are types of scattering. When a beam of light interacts with the constituent particle of the medium, so when a beam of light is going to interact with the constituent particle of the medium, so this is the medium of air. We are taking atmosphere, right, from vacuum to air. So air is having particle, and this is that particle, so incident light is going to be dispersed by this particle, and that's called scattering of light. It undergoes many kinds of scattering. We'll be studying it later. Based on initial and final energy of the light beam, scattering can be classified as elastic scattering, inelastic scattering. Well, what can we think of it is very simple. Mm, okay, leave it that. We'll be studying it. Elastic scattering and inelastic scattering on the basis of initial and final energy. That means uh, they are saying that if 3 joule of light beam is going to come and a scatterer is here, and after the scatterer is hit, the light beam is going to divide into two, and each beam is going to carry 1 joule of energy, 1 joule of energy. But here you may see that 3 joule of energy is initially coming, but after scattering, 1 joule plus 1 joule, 2 joule is just going out. Then where is that 1 joule gone? That's the question. And this scattering is called as inelastic scattering. In inelastic scattering, the initial energy and final energy won't be equal. One thing you need to understand, anywhere, anytime, the initial energy will be always greater than or equal to the final energy. This is the law actually. You need to know this. The initial energy will be always greater than or equal to the final energy. And this scattering is called as inelastic scattering, whereas if 3 joule of energy is coming, and here is the scatterer, and the scatterer is going to scatter this single beam into 3 beams, and each beam is going to carry 1 joule of energy. Joule is actually the SI unit of energy. Okay, 1 joule, and initial energy is 3 and final energy is 3, so there is no change in initial and final energy, and that's called as elastic scattering. That's the concept here. Reading through the text, if the energy of the incident beam of light and the scattered beam of light are same, comma, then it is called as elastic scattering. Yeah, I taught this now only. Okay. Second one, inelastic scattering. If the energy of the incident beam of light and the scattered beam of light are not same, then it is called as inelastic scattering. The nature and size of the scatterer results in different types of scattering. They are, see, actually before we saw on the basis of initial and final energy, and now we are going to see different types of scattering on the basis of size and nature of the scatterer. uh, there are 4 types of scattering, right? Yes, 4 types of scattering. Where is that? Okay, 4 types of scattering. First one is Rayleigh scattering, second one is Mie scattering, third one is Tyndall scattering, and fourth one is Raman scattering. Raman, I guess, Sir C.V. Raman, you might have heard about this scientist. He's a great scientist, and he's from Tamil Nadu. We are celebrating National Science Day on honor of this great scientist, Sir C.V. Raman. We'll be studying it, what he discovered, why we are celebrating his birthday as National Science Day. We'll be doing it. Then, coming to the first scattering, Rayleigh scattering. Very easy. The scattering of sunlight by the atoms or molecules of the gases in the Earth's atmosphere is known as Rayleigh scattering. You can understand this text. Just scattering of sunlight by atmosphere molecules is called as Rayleigh scattering. Very easy. Then Rayleigh scattering law. This man proposed a law too. Fine. Come on. Rayleigh scattering law states that the amount of scattering of light is inversely proportional to the fourth power of its wavelength. Just this thing. This simple formula just was elaborated in this big manner. If you just remember this formula, you can write this sentence. Amount of scattering is S, and it is inversely proportional to the fourth power of wavelength. What they are saying is very simple. Take two lights. One is 900 nanometer, or take it as meter, fine. 900 meter, and the other one is 300 meter. Actually, this is wavelength. Okay. So, according to this formula, if wavelength is very small, then scattering is more because it is inversely proportional. If lambda decreases, scattering increases. That's what they are saying here, and that means this 300-meter wavelength light will have more scattering while compared to this one. See, 1 by 4 is always lesser than 1 by 0.4 because 1 by 4 is 0.2 something, but 1 by 0.4 is 2 point something, right? But actually 4 is greater than 0.4. So if the number in denominator gets higher and higher, the whole value gets lower and lower, and that's what inversely proportional indicates. If lambda increases, amount of scattering decreases. Lambda is wavelength. That's all the law. Wait a minute. Okay. According to this law, the shorter the wavelength of colors are scattered much more than the longer wavelength colors. That's what I said. If a single color is going to have less wavelength, then it will scatter more. So according to me, blue color is going to have lesser wavelength. Due to that, it is going to scatter more. So we are seeing the sky blue color. Yeah, I'm correct. That's the reason. Then, when sunlight passes through the atmosphere, the blue color, which is shorter wavelength, yeah, I said na, shorter wavelength is scattered to a greater extent than the red color because red color is going to have longer wavelength. That means in text I can simply write it as 4 meter, let it be blue, and red is going to be 8 meter wavelength. This is red, and according to this law, 1 by lambda power 4 is directly proportional something to scattering. So if lambda is very small, then scattering is very high. So due to this law, Rayleigh's law, he stated that blue will be scattering more. Scattering is very high, and that's the reason sky is appearing blue in color. Then, at sunrise and sunset, the light rays from the sun have to travel a larger distance in the atmosphere than at noon. Hence, most of the blue light are scattered away, and only the red light, which gets least scattered, reaches us. Therefore, the color of the sun is red at sunrise and sunset. Actually, you need to have a clear cut view on Earth. See, this is Earth, and here there are we are living here. Okay, fine. See, if in early morning sun will be here and we are here, fine. So sun's light must travel a longer distance from here to here to reach us, and due to that, since it is traveling a longer distance, many scatterers are present in our atmosphere which will scatter the smaller wavelength color. What we read, the smaller wavelength color is blue. Blue is having the smaller wavelength compared to red. So that's why blue is going to be scattered everywhere and it's not going to come to our eyes. And red light is not going to be scattered a lot. So red light will reach our eyes, and that's the reason why we are seeing red color sun or orange color sun while it is in sunset or sunrise. But in noon, I mean afternoon 12 a.m. or I think so something afternoon 12, the sun will be on our top. If you just see the sky in a straight upwards, you will see the sun. So the sun will take lesser distance than it was here, and that's the reason the blue light is going to travel lesser distance, so lesser scattering, so the sun is going to appear a bit yellowish color, which is just near to white. So that's it, here is explaining. Then me scattering, me scattering. Fine. Me scattering takes place when the diameter of the scatterer is similar to or larger than the wavelength of the incident light. It is also an elastic scattering. Okay, me scattering is an elastic scattering. Remember this. The amount of scattering is independent of wavelength. Okay, mist scattering is caused by pollen, dust, smoke, water droplets, and other particles in the lower portion of the atmosphere. Okay, for it's very easy. For example, if you are going to just wake up in which month? Maybe January, February, or December. Okay, December, January, February. In these 3 months, you might be seeing that there are snowfalls everywhere in Tamil Nadu, and snowfalls is just not similar to Delhi and all. It's a bit lesser, na. So at that time, when you see sun, it won't be too much visible, but it is visible, and there some scattering is occurring between that snow particles and sunlight, and that scattering is called as mist scattering, because the particle, I mean the water droplets or the snow, is going to be the similar size of the wavelength of the sunlight, and that's the reason it is going to scatter here and there, which is going to let lesser amount of sunlight to enter your eyes. That's called as mist scattering. Mist scattering is responsible for the white appearance of the clouds. Anytime you see the clouds, they are white, and that's due to mist scattering. But in rainy seasons, I will be seeing black color clouds also. But here they didn't give what is the reason for that. Just leave that and read this. This is for marks. Fine. When white light falls on the water drops, all the colors are equally scattered, which together form the white light. Okay, fine. Actually, in before classes, we studied about prism, where white light is going to scatter into 7 colors. But here, what they're saying is that all the 7 colors is going to scatter in the same way, in the same amount. So as a result, they are again going to mix with each other, and they are finally going to form the same white color, and this is called as mist scattering. Very simple, na? Sorry for that. Wait a minute. Okay. And that's all for me scattering. Then we are going to have Tyndall scattering, Raman scattering, lenses. Oh well, can I take 2 classes? No, one class is enough. Fine. Tyndall scattering. Okay, what is Tyndall scattering? Very might have seen it. Well, if you would have gone to anyone's home which is built by coconut leaves, I mean coconut leaves, or you know say தென்னை மட்டையில் கட்டின வீட்டுக்கெலாம் போயிருந்தீங்கன்னா, அங்கே சின்ன சின்ன ஓட்டையிலேருந்து வர்ற சன்லைட் இருக்குல்ல, அது வந்து ஃப்ளோரில் படுறப்ப நீங்கள் அந்த பார்த்தீங்கன்னா அதில் வந்து கொஞ்சம் டிஸ்டர்பன்ஸ் க்ரியேட் ஆகி கொஞ்சம் கிளிட்டர் இருக்கிற மாதிரி தெரியும். கிளிட்டர் மீன்ஸ் டைப் ஆஃப் ஷைனி திங்ஸ் விச் இஸ் காஸ்ட் டியூ டு டஸ்ட் பார்ட்டிகல்ஸ், அண்ட் அந்த எஃபெக்ட்டுக்கு பேர் தான் டிண்டால் ஸ்கேட்டரிங். That's all. I explained it in very small, very brief manner. But contextually, we need to go now. When a beam of sunlight, enters into a dusty room through a window, then its path becomes visible to us. Yeah, this is what I explained in that coconut leaf made house. Okay, this is because the tiny dust particles present in the air of the room scatter the beam of light. This is an example of Tyndall scattering. Very simple. The scattering of light rays by the colloidal particles in the colloidal solution is called as Tyndall scattering or Tyndall effect. So, what is actually a colloidal solution? Colloidal or colloid? You must be asking it. You must be searching for the answer. You must search. That's the job of a student. See, there are I don't know how many types of solutions, but I know something. Colloidal solution, true solution, another solution. Okay, let it be. Colloidal solution is very simple. The particle or the, what can I say in short? Okay, fine. They gave examples here. Milk plus water. See, if you mix milk and water, it forms a colloid. But you won't be seeing that milk and water is separate. They are just mixed properly. But if you use some different techniques, you can separate that. See what they gave actual definition. Colloid is a microscopically small substance that is equally dispersed throughout another material. Milk, muddy water, no. Smoke is a good example, man. Smoke. Where can you see smoke? Okay, air. Uh, Actually, I don't know how can I explain you, because this is a 11th and 12th topic. We'll be having surface chemistry as a topic, and in under which we'll be studying colloidal solutions and all. Not much important, but for some cases, just take the example of milk. See, if you wanna do some experiment, take milk and add some water. Some means a little amount of water into it, and if you just mix it, you won't be just seeing that water and milk are separate. It is both mixed now, but actually milk is separate, water is different. But after mixing, they are just single compound, and this compound is called as colloid. And for further experiment, you can have a white color torchlight. Torchlight is needed, no phone torch will be allowed to do this experiment actually. So pour that milk in a glass tumbler, no tumbler, okay, a glass cup, fine. So just hit the light in the walls of the glass glass tumbler, okay, glass tumbler or glass cup. Hit in the walls, I mean the sideways. uh, Wait a minute, I will draw and show. That's better. See, this is that glass tumbler, and here is milk and all, milk mixture. Fine. So you must have your torch in this direction, and as a result, the beam is going to pass through this. So if this is going to be the case, and if you are seeing this, that glass which is filled with milk, in the same way, you are seeing your mobile now, then you will see either blue color, I guess, blue color or red color. And this is one experiment, and the second experiment is just take the same milk in a glass jar something, and you are going to hit the white light in this direction, this way. So in this way you are going to hit, and here is the torch, okay. In this way you are going to hit, and eventually you can see that there is refraction and also reflection, because there is no area where total reflection or total refraction takes place. Everywhere partial refraction and partial reflection takes place, okay. I'm just confusing you, but this is a good experiment. If you just hit the torch in this way, you can see some different colors in some angles. If you just turn here and there and see, you will see different colors. And the milk won't be appearing white in color if you just hit the torch in this way. I hadn't done this experiment, but just try. Life is totally trials and errors. You do trial, the result will be error, and you again try with that error, you will get success. Very simple. Then Raman scattering. Here comes the legendary man, I'm sorry, Sir C.V. Raman. Fine. When a parallel beam of monochromatic light, single colored, monochromatic means single colored, either pure red or pure blue, light passes through a gas or liquid or transparent solid, a part of light rays are scattered. This is what he discovered. Well, we'll be understanding it in higher classes. The scattered light contains some additional frequencies other than that of incident frequency. This is known as Raman scattering or Raman effect. So, according to my guess, take this as a container, and here there are particles, that is gas particle, and here the beam of light is going to come and it is going to go away. But there are some frequencies which is going to come out and hit this particles while in the travel. So after hitting it, it is going to scatter away, right? And while scattering, they said that this is a monochromatic light source, so this will have a particular frequency and particular lambda. But after scattering, Raman said that the frequency and wavelength will not be the same as the initial. It will have some different frequency and wavelength, and that is called as Raman effect. A great, it's a great discovery, but we can't understand, you can't understand it better. In higher classes you will be understanding it and you will be appreciating Sir C.V. Raman for his discovery. Then Raman scattering is defined as the interaction of light ray with the particle of pure liquids or transparent solids, which leads to a change in wavelength or frequency. For example, if you need to take a Raman scatterings in real life, well, you can see that the sea, I mean the ocean, is in blue color, and this phenomenon is discovered and appreciated, and it is totally read by Sir C.V. Raman, and this law, his words explained why the sea is in blue color. It will take some time to understand it because he is a legend. Well, this whole paragraph is a lot mess and you need to memorize it. You won't understand now. It takes time. You will understand it in 11th and 12th. Okay, just for reading, I will be reading it. The spectral lines having frequency equal to the incident ray frequency is called a Rayleigh line. Spectral lines having frequency equal to the incident ray frequency is called as Rayleigh line. The studying is confused. Okay, and the spectral lines which are having frequencies other than the incident ray frequency are called as Raman lines. The lines having frequencies lower than the incident frequency is called as Stokes lines, and the lines having frequencies higher than the incident frequency are called as anti-Stokes line. Yeah, a bit confusing, right? But very simple. This is that monochromatic light source, right? Which is going to have a particular frequency and particular lambda. And any spectral line which is going to be in this frequency and in this lambda is termed as Rayleigh line. Okay, first thing is clear. And we saw that after hitting some particles, this monochromatic light source is going to scatter. Not all the monochromatic beams, but some scatters away, right? The scattering away lights will have different wavelengths, right? So those different wavelength rays is called as Raman lines. Second thing over, the lines having frequencies lower than the incident frequency is called as stroke lines. So these Raman lines are there now, they will be having some frequency and wavelength. So according to this, if frequency of the scattered light or the scatter line is lower than the incident line, that means f is greater than f1, and this is f1, frequency 1. If this is the case, then wait a minute, and then uh, this line is called as stroke line. Easy, stroke line. If this is f2, frequency 2 of the scattered beam 2, and the case is initial frequency is lesser than f2, and this line is called as anti-Stokes line. Stoke, anti-Stoke. Anti means the opposite of Stokes. Anti means the opposite. I'm sorry. Anti is opposite, and that means anti-Stoke. Anti-Stoke. Okay. But what you need to know is that Stoke and anti-Stoke both are Raman lines. Raman line something, and Raman line and Rayleigh line are different. The scattered lines are called as Raman lines, and the unscattered lines or the initial incident line is called as Rayleigh line. Then Raman line is divided into two. One is Stokes lines and another one is anti-Stokes lines. If the frequency is lesser than the initial frequency, then that line is called a stroke line, and the frequency is greater than the initial frequency, then that is called as anti-Stokes line. That's all. I think so. You might have got something from this paragraph. Then they said a very important line. You will study more about Raman effect in higher classes. Very important. Mark this line. It will be very useful while studying for 10th. And that's all for session 2.4, I guess. Yeah, 2.4. We'll be doing 2.5 in the upcoming days. Until that, wait for it. Like the video, share it, subscribe my YouTube channel. Thank you. Bye bye.